Welcome to the Painter's Dialectic Podcast. This is the Spiritual Friends Group meeting today for Monday, July 21st, 2025, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And the theme of today is Mysterium, Tremendum. So we'll journey into the great mystery, the ground of being that has been called Yahweh, God, Allah, Brahman, the Tao, the Dharmakāya, and in physics, the quantum vacuum. Whether spoken of through sacred language or approached in secular terms, these ultimate ground has stirred awe, terror, silence, and ecstatic creativity across cultures and time. So join us today on this meditative art group journey into the great mystery. Welcome everyone to July's group event. Today is July 21st, 2025, and we'll be going into the great mystery, the ground of being that has been called Yahweh, God, Allah, Brahman, the Tao, the Dharmakāya, and I'm even going to throw in a little physics, because why not? Talk about the quantum vacuum. Whether spoken of through sacred language or approached in secular terms, this ultimate ground has stirred awe, terror, silence, and ecstatic creativity across cultures and time. For those of you who are listening to the podcast or seeing this sometime in the future, my name is Josh Green. I'm an artist and art educator living in New York City, and I am certified to teach meditation through Tibet House and Dharma Moon here in Manhattan. I'm becoming a certified teacher in Western esoteric traditions through the Institute for Hermetic Studies, and I'm certified to teach art through the MFA program at Alfred University. So this event is the Spiritual Friends Group, Meditative Art Community, and if you'd like to learn more about it, you can go to Artist-Errant.com. And I also have my online courses. You can see our group has a tab now that you can go watch the old meetings on. I made an eco-friendly and health-safe oil brush cleaning course. It's completely free. I just want to help y'all stay safe while you're oil painting and how to dispose of oil paint once you're out of university and how do you do that at home in an eco-friendly way. I have the bar drawing course and the fundamentals of drawing. I've created a student gallery for the Artist-Errant.com. If you'd like to submit some work to show in the Artist-Errant gallery, you just email me. Actually, I believe that's the back of Rosalie's head right there from our cast painting class over the summer at Alfred University. And of course, I got Renard's paintings in there. All right. So this group now is, we're doing all this to raise donations for the IHS collection. So we're raising money to establish the Institute for Hermetic Studies collection at the Weinberg Memorial Library on the campus of the University of Scranton. So to attend this event, please send a donation through the link in your email. I'll also add a link in the description of the episode on the podcast and on YouTube. And I was told today that we've just delivered another 624 books to the library. So thank you to everyone here that's contributed to that project. So the schedule today is I'm going to do my philosophical introduction. I'm shooting for 15 minutes, but it never is. Then we'll do a short meditation on the topic, and then we'll go into art making, and then we'll open up the dialogue, and then finally we'll end with our dedication. So this painting is Melancholia, created in 1916 by Giorgio de Chirico. And he created his own genre of painting called Pictura Metafisica, and that just means metaphysical painting. So it's always been fun for me to ask people what they believe in because they usually don't know and have never really contemplated it in a way that they could express it verbally, right? Ask most Christians what God is, and they probably won't be able to answer. Ask a Buddhist what enlightenment is, and they probably won't know either. Ask an atheist what they don't believe in, and they will say that they just don't believe in the sky daddy, right? Is there a sky daddy that answers our wishes and protects us, or is this idea too simplistic? Is there something experiential and less speculative to approaching the divine? So today we're exploring metaphysics, which is taken on a different meaning today. You might have heard people say, that's so meta, bro, you know? Well, that is not the type of meta we're talking about. So I will be using the term as if you all are studying philosophy. So metaphysics is the philosophical study of being, that things are, right? Reality, what is, and its fundamental structure of what exists, right? So being, reality, and the fundamental structure. So historically, it began as an inquiry into first causes. You know, how did this all come about? Also, is there any unchanging realities? Is there anything eternal to the universe? Also, what is being? What is my being? Questions like what is existence? What is its ultimate source of all things? Those are metaphysical questions. Over time, metaphysics has turned into an enormous genre of philosophy. It's taking on ontology, which explores what kinds of things exist, like substances, universals, minds, bodies, modality, what is possible, or even what is necessary. Time and space, what are they? Do they exist? Causation of free will. What does it mean for something to cause another? Or am I free? Do I actually make decisions? The mental and physical. What is consciousness? Can it be reduced to matter? And there's even social metaphysics. What are institutions, social categories, or even identities? These imagined realities that we live in. So today, metaphysics is best understood as a field that explores the most general features of reality, often by asking questions that go beyond empirical science, questions about what reality is, that's metaphysics, not just how it behaves, which would be science. Importantly, even denying metaphysical claims is itself a metaphysical stance. As Sartre put it, denying God is as metaphysical as affirming God, so atheism is also a metaphysics. Physicalism, materialism that deny consciousness, right, are also metaphysics. Any statement about what is metaphysical. So whether you're aware of it or not, you have a metaphysical philosophy that is guiding your life. It influences how you define yourself and your relationship to reality. And as my spiritual teacher at the Hermetic Institute says, that's exactly what spirituality is. Understanding what you are and your relationship to the world outside of you. And as you progress, that definition, those ideas grow and expand, right? So there's this constant re-examining and redefining yourself and your relationship to what is as you mature philosophically and spiritually. So why does these metaphysical questions matter to your daily life? Well, it shapes your worldview. Metaphysics defines what you believe is real. God, the self, time, purpose. These beliefs shape how you live and relate to others. So your metaphysics grounds your ethics and sense of responsibility. So your beliefs about free will, the soul, cause and effect, influence your sense of right and wrong, justice, and personal responsibility. Metaphysics helps you face suffering and death. Metaphysics provides meaning to hardship, guiding on how you understand suffering and permanence and what may lie beyond life. Metaphysics deepens your presence and sense of awe. By questioning what reality is, metaphysics can break your habitual thinking and open you to wonder, mindfulness, and deeper awareness. It enriches art and ritual. Art and spiritual practices often embody metaphysical truths. Actually, any form of prayer is constantly stating you and your relationship to the reality. you could say even every artwork, every spiritual ritual that takes place is constantly defining what you are in your relationship to reality. Metaphysics encourages authentic living. Exploring metaphysics helps you to question your assumptions and live from a place of clarity, not inherited beliefs. So, metaphysics isn't just a large abstract philosophy, it is the foundation of how you see, feel, act, and create meaning. So, that's the big idea for today. So, reflect on that metaphysics, this philosophy with, for most people, is subconscious, is how you see, feel, act, and create meaning in your life. This is Mount Corcoran, painted in 1876 by Albert Bierstadt. So I want to do a short thought experiment. Just quickly, you can imagine yourself as a child out in nature. Before you went to school, before all these cultural influences, before religion, before you developed your thinking very much, what did it feel like to be in nature? Did you feel a connection? Right? I had many moments like that as a child growing up on the bayou, looking into the night sky, walking in the water. There's just a feeling of connectedness, feeling of something greater. This is the painting Monk by the Sea, painted in 1808 by Caspar David Friedrich. So that little thought experiment, maybe you've had a memory like that. Rudolf Otto sought to discover something universal in all religions. He described this as the foundational experience of the numinous. So that experience I was just talking about is referred to as the numen. It's a felt presence of the sacred before it is named or formed. I think this painting nails it. Rudolf Otto came up with this idea called Mysterium Tremendum. He was a German theologian, and in his 1917 work, Das Heilige, the idea of the holy, he describes an awe-inspiring mystery that lies in the heart of religious experience. It refers to a feeling of encountering the numinous, that which is wholly other, beyond rational comprehension, and evokes both fascination, which he called fascinans, and trembling fear, or awe, tremendum. So there's three parts to this experience of the foundational reality. He defined the first as mysterium, an unknowable or transcendent mystery. Tremendum, provoking dread, majesty, or an overpowering energy. And fascinans, drawing the soul in with a magnetic sense of beauty, grace, or love. Otto argued that this experience is pre-rational and pre-moral, rooted in a direct, intuitive awareness of the sacred. It is not reducible to psychological, ethical, or theological categories, but is sui generis, experience foundational to all religion. This is The Great Day of His Wrath, 1851 by John Martin. So, in that idea that Otto put out, there's this sense of awe and being drawn in, and a profound appreciation, also terror of immensity. And I'd like to redefine this idea in the West of the fear of God. In the Hebrew Bible, in the Old Testament, is called Yirat Adonai, which basically translates to the fear of the Lord's. It's considered the beginning of wisdom in Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10. It combines reverence, obedience, and at times literal fear in the face of God's majesty, judgment, or holiness. I think, me, Kenny, and now Rosalie's on the Gulf Coast. You face extreme weather, hurricanes, flooding, destruction regularly, almost yearly there. So I definitely relate to that extreme power in nature. There's also an idea of reverence or obedience that's associated with this immensity. So it combines terror, awe, and respect, this fear of God. In Latin, it's called timor Dei. Fear of God is one of the seven gifts of the Holy Spirit. The church fathers divided it up, and there was servile fear, or timor servilis, or filial fear, timor filialis. So the servile fear was fear of punishment, while filial fear was reverential, all born out of love and respect. Aquinas and others viewed the fear of God as ultimately about the recognition of divine majesty and one's own smallness, not anxiety. So there's a sense of awe. I think the best word to define it is sublime, the experience of the sublime, of immensity related to this experience. This is an etching by Robert Flood in 1617. So I'm putting forth the idea of God as a great mystery. Instead of defining God concretely, I'd like to put forth God as a great mystery that intuitively arises as a child looks into the starry night sky. And I've included a bunch of quotes from different religions to support this idea. Unknown and yet well known. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9. Evagrius of Pontus said, God cannot be grasped by the mind. If he could be grasped, he would not be God. Pseudo-Dionysius said, God is not merely unknowable, but beyond unknowing, not merely ineffable, but beyond ineffability. Even these are still words. They must be transcended. Augustine of Hippo, God cannot be said to be ineffable, because even when this is said, something is said. This conflict of words is better avoided by silence than by voice. Thomas Aquinas said, the more God reveals himself, the more ineffable he becomes. Even in heaven, we will not comprehend him. This is a Tibetan Thangka painting of the Dharmakāya, the ground of being, the fundamental reality. You know, you can see they have a radically different conception of sex. This is how they depict the divine. So in the Avatamsaka Sutra from the Buddhist Mahayana tradition, ineffably ineffable, thus comes one, in a single thought, ineffably ineffable Buddha. Yaroslav Komarovsky commented on Tibetan Buddhism. This pure conscious event is ineffable. Our space-time and cosmological horizon are irrelevant to it. It is ineffable. So you see a lot of repeating themes. In Islam, this is the Shah Mosque of Ifan. In the Quran, chapter 6, verse 103, vision perceives him not, and he perceives all vision. Ahmad ibn Hanbal, a Sunni Muslim, said, whatever comes to your mind regarding God and his nature, God is different than that. This is a painting called Persimmons, painting in 1265 by Muqi. So in the Tao Te Ching, it says, look and it can't be seen. Listen and it can't be heard. Reach and it can't be grasped. But that includes all forms. Image without an image, subtle beyond all conception. Ehi Dogen in the 13th century said, past mind cannot be grasped, present mind cannot be grasped, and future mind cannot be grasped. In the Jewish tradition, this is an illustration from the Sefer Yetzirah. And the Zohar, it says, before he gave any shape to the world, he was alone, without form and without resemblance to anything else. Any name of God cannot be applied to the deity prior to his self-manifestation. And Rabbi Moses Cordovero said the Ein Sof, which is the fundamental ground in Kabbalah, the Ein Sof is boundless, infinite aspect of God beyond all description and limitation. It represents the ultimate source of all existence. So there, across all these cultures and thousands of years, God cannot be depicted through an image. Um, Nothing can really be known or even unknown about God, about this fundamental ground. It is beyond all conception, and that's where we get the idea of idolatry. By representing God in some way, by putting it in a form, it becomes idolatrous. You begin worshiping a false God. I think this is interesting with the idea of the quantum vacuum in physics. So this is a simulation of the equations that calculate the quantum vacuum. In quantum field theory, the quantum vacuum field is the ground of reality. And it's not an empty vacuum like we think of, but it has fluctuations. So this was an animation of these fluctuations within the vacuum. Albert Einstein says the human mind is not capable of grasping the universe. We are like a little child entering a huge library, a mysterious order which it does not comprehend. So the quantum vacuum is the ground state of all fields. It is the lowest energy state, with no real particles, excitations within it. But even though it's empty, it contains persistent fluctuations due to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, called zero-point energy. And these fluctuations are virtual particles. So according to the physics, pairs of matter and antimatter are constantly popping out of this vacuum all the time and canceling each other, splitting and returning, splitting and returning. So the quantum vacuum isn't a nothingness, it's a dynamic sea of potential energy. Particles are viewed as excitations or ripples on the vacuum framework. And the vacuum bridges quantum physics, cosmology, and even philosophical questions about the nature of emergence and ground. So it's a creative nothing. So even physicists, I got quotes from the leader, Werner Heisenberg, said physics is reflection on the divine ideas of creation. Therefore, physics is divine service. God's second book is nature. Erwin Schrödinger said, the unification of mind or consciousness, there is obviously only one mind. Okay, the creative quantum mechanics there. Let's see. Max explained all matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent spirit. This spirit is the matrix of all matter. I even found an atheist that I thought lines up with this. George Santayana. He's a philosopher. My atheism, like that of Spinoza, is true piety towards the universe and denies only gods fashioned by men in their own image, right? The idolatry I was talking about. A metaphysical awe at the infinite cosmos, unbound by man-made deities. Doesn't sound very atheist to me. If you line it up with all those other traditions, you see this kind of coherence. Now to the practical aspect, there are traditions that lead you to have a direct experience or relationship with this ground of being. Usually the practices are extremely simple, but incredibly nuanced and rely on many years of practice. Because once you try to see the ground of being, you have a lot of interesting meditative experiences. In Tibet, they call them yams. That can make you very delusional, make you think you're experiencing something really special, but it's always described as extremely ordinary, extremely plain, because it's always there. They're searching for something that is consistent, something that's there all the time. Is going to be the most ordinary thing of all, right? Something that's eternal and never changes is always present. Some notable ones that I think have done really well is Jewish Kabbalah, which relies on a very complex symbology. You meditate on symbols, you use mirrors and rituals, and I've tried it. It's probably the hardest spiritual system I've ever attempted. It's probably above my pay grade. A really interesting Christian one is hesychasm in Eastern Orthodoxy. They do a prayer called the Jesus Prayer, which you have a kind of like a rosary or prayer rope. And you start off focusing the mind, repeating this mantra 1,000 times, and you go to 10,000 times, and then you start incorporating your breathing technique, and really incredible results with that. But it's a pretty risky one too, because you can get compulsive thinking. Dzogchen, Tibetan Buddhism, I think is one of my favorites for this. Extremely subtle. You kind of cut through layers of your mind through deep observation. But I just wanted to let you guys know that there are traditions that all of these go beyond conceptual thinking, beyond ideologies, and try to find the ground of the mind. So, with all that said, let's do a practice now. We'll do something simple. So this is our seated posture. So if everyone could take their seat, remember you don't have to stare into the camera while we meditate. You can look off to the side. You can turn off your screen or your video so no one can see you. And so just make sure that your legs are at a 90-degree angle so that your spine isn't too low or too high, so you don't get lower back problems while you meditate. You can let your palms fall down naturally onto your thighs. You can keep your spine erect and straight, but not too tight. You can let your stomach relax and your chest relax and open slightly. You can softly tuck in your chin so that your neck is straight. And we're just going to start off by focusing the mind right now. So bring your attention to your solar plexus and just follow the rise and follow the breath. And we can just softly gaze down at the ground. Just come into your body, let yourself settle. Let the day fall off. We're going to stabilize the mind before we try this. If you get lost in thought, just gently turn to the solar plexus and follow your breath. And let your shoulders relax. Really start settling into the body. We're going to let our breathing slow down. Deeply relaxing while staying aware. Now start recalling that sense of awe, the immensity of the universe, the complexity of the universe, the complexity of the body, billions of cells working together in harmony, billions of people working together, creating communities, ecosystems, solar systems, galaxies, nets and superstructures of galaxies. A tremendous sense of awe. You can keep your eyes open or closed now and begin letting go. Forget these forms. Let the room you're in dissolve. Let your body dissolve. Just relax deeply into the mind, into the mystery. Stop trying to achieve anything. Let go of all your ideas of God or what the experience will be like. Just let go. Dropping deeper into a stillness. Dropping into a silence in vast space. Vast endless space. Let go of this identity. Let go of your stories. Thoughts will come up, just let them go. They arise out of this space and they dissolve right back in. There's nothing to do about them. All these are mental events arise out of the ground and dissolve back into the ground on their own. It's a beautiful line in the Bible. Be still and know that I am God. Very gently start coming back. And we want to bring this peace into our art practice. You can start painting, drawing, writing, and without a plan, just let it flow out. Something inspired by the numinous. I could sit in that all day. Go 10 more minutes. Five more minutes. All right. Put the highlights in the eyes. If everyone could turn the screens back on so we can come together as a group.
I'll share. I did kind of like a swampy wetland. Just like kept it
Okay.
simple with the colors. I tried to draw like turtles and birds, but I'm not very good at doing animals without a reference photo.
Nice
Uh,
bayou scene.
yeah, just because I was thinking a lot about like I guess like quality of light and just like where land meets water. And to me, it has a lot to do with the higher power up above or side to side or within, without. Um, yeah, something about trying to create light with not that many colors, I think. I don't know. That's what I did. I enjoyed meditating, but I'm not sure I can verbalize like that much right now.
Well, you saw that was the whole thing, is you can't verbalize it.
Yeah.
It's the numinous. Kenny, why you texting me this? Just show it on the, just hold it up. All right.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was light or dark enough. That's why.
Yeah, it looks great.
Um, for me, I don't know. It was just like spaces, relationships, one space relating to another, maybe some shapes or just things relating to another, see how they fit. And then I think I was in awe of some clouds I had seen that I was just amazed how the clouds were. You can't really see them at the top,
Mm.
but uh when I just kind of went into that space, I just started like putting colors down instead of thinking too much.
Yeah, well, you also have a solar element in there. Well, Till, you got anything over there? No maze, labyrinth painting today?
Still working on it.
Okay. What about you, Ron?
Yeah, I did something. I'm not quite there yet, but basically, I was just trying to indicate. Oh, I don't know if. Yes,
Yeah, this is what happened last time.
yeah, yeah. Granted, AI has come so far, but yet uh, things just like Zoom. It's not. It's kind of distant.
Well,
Let me
I think I glimpsed a circle in there.
yeah, it's kind of like a circle. Um, yeah, it's almost getting there. Well, maybe if I do like the blurred background, I can,
Okay.
somehow come up with it. It'll take to it better.
Tape a picture of your face to the drawing.
What's that? What's that?
I said you could tape a picture of your face to the drawing.
Yes, that's true. Yes. But yeah, no, I think it's
Okay.
blurring this as part of the background, unfortunately, as well.
I see
I don't,
like maybe
and it's,
like a solar system or something
yeah,
atomic.
kind of like it's like this is the sun, and this is this like here we the sun. See if it would actually just kind of like just beacons there. The sun is like the middle there,
Okay.
and you can kind of see like everything's around it, including the moon, which is kind of like chill but happy, and then the other planets, which are kind of like just doing their thing, and then the comet, which is kind of charged but happy, and then the clouds, which are kind of sad. All these,
Uh-huh.
and then the mountains, which are just kind of stoic, all
Uh-huh.
rotate around the sun, which kind of connects everything in the whole. But it's supposed to be like what the arms are doing, kind of connecting all the elements of the universe together, where it's all part of the existence of being connected with the sun as the center of everything. Yeah, the one thing in common, I guess.
So we
You
got
know,
three central suns.
oh, the difference. Yeah. But it's the moon, and then
Uh-huh.
it's another planet. It's like another planet, like Jupiter or something like that, and then
Yeah.
mountains beneath it,
What
and then
about you?
the sun in the middle.
Till, did you have a sun in your incomplete work?
No,
Not really.
that's pretty.
No? Okay.
No.
Well, it's unanimous suns then. Ron has orbiting the centralized sun, everything's orbiting around it. Kenny's was kind of orbiting the sun.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, no, everybody has some kind of like central sun type thing in it, I think, or figure. But yeah, but that was the whole. So I wasn't quite didn't quite finish, but that was the direction on that I've been going. I was going in.
There you
So
go. And now you made idols.
yeah,
Idolatry.
exactly. For false idols, exactly. Trying to use the limited symbolic items that I am that are at my disposal. So
Yeah, maybe some things to add to that. In the West, they give three attributes to God: omniscience, like all-knowing, omnipresence, omnipotence, right? So all-knowing, in everywhere, and all-powerful, right? Um, Egyptians had a trinity too. They would have a mother and a father and then a son. Each different city would have that kind of trinity, and we see that continue into Judaism and Christianity. Islam doesn't have a trinity. They got rid of that. It's just one. And in Buddhism too, they have Dharmakāya, Nirmanakaya, Sambhogakāya. It's a lot of triplicity when it comes to dealing with the eternal. It's hard to talk about it because it's supposed to reside outside of space and time. That's another pretty universal idea. It's unknowable, yet everywhere and very ordinary and common. I don't know how, you know, even the quantum vacuum is still a thing, it's still an idea, but it's a quantum vacuum. It's outside of space and time, the quantum vacuum. Space and time are things that exist within it. Things happen in it, but it's not anywhere or any place. It's not anywhere, any place, but places are in it. And times are in it, but it has no time. I guess it's a hard topic.
it's quite a few things. Yeah, it's like yeah, just about everything.
What exactly are you like I guess looking to comment on like beliefs?
I don't know, just whatever came up for you. Um, I know your idea is a space within a space, endless spaces within space, right? As the foundational ground.
Just a parameter, the foundational ground. Mhm.
I, re I really like let me see if I can bring up presentation real quick again. Go back to really like how they handled it in well, now I can't share my okay. So you guys able to see this diagram?
Yeah, you showed that earlier.
Yeah, so these three up top in Judaism are outside of space and time. This is in eternal realm. And right here, this is Keter. This is the ultimate unity, the oneness that unites everything. Over here is no, it's over here. Over here is Hokmah, which is the next down, which is wisdom. And I think the idea we presented here is really close to wisdom. So wisdom would be the space that contains all knowledge. Like knowledge is made out of this, or any experience is made out of this. Then over here is Bina, where things begin to take form, almost like a conception. So they're beginning to leave this eternal realm once they come here, and then they come down. So in the Romans associated this with Saturn limits, the god of time. Once you come out of this, you enter space-time, kind of an idea. Or the Christians would say this is Satan, the one who takes you down, brings you into form, into density. And so their idea is that this must be overcome to enter into the realm of eternity. I thought that was a nice kind of philosophy of handling it.
What needs to be overcome?
Um, uh, Bina, which is kind of the gate to eternity. It's limit Saturn. You like astrology, Saturn. So the all limitations, corruption, decay has to be overcome.
What was the last one again?
Corruption, decay.
No, 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 you said something. It sounded like Satan.
Oh, Satan, yeah, is would be the Christian, the devil. The devil must be overcome to enter into eternity. All limitations, all temptations, um, to cross that threshold into the eternal realm. Um,
Yeah.
and that downward force in Judaism is also associated with things becoming materialized. Um, so even materialism or physicalism today that deny consciousness and say that materialism is everything, that traditionally would be associated with that, with something satanic, because it denies consciousness as a ground. And then on the other side, the other pillar going up, the upward force, um, they relate that with the Luciferic, the light bearer, right? The one that brings you up. But you can become imbalanced that way and just be lost in just kind of a diluted realm of idealism not grounded on the ground. So in the Jewish tradition, you try to take the middle path between materialism and idealism, a kind of balanced perspective where you unite them. And also you see that Keter, the unity, is above Malkut, which is the physical world we're in, and there you try to unify all of those. If you remember the last one we talked about Tiferet, the center point, the balancing point. That's the Kabbalah. I talked about that as a mystical path. Extraordinary, complex, uh, very complicated symbolism. I mean, you can study it your whole life and just be breaking the surface of it. And then putting those things into practice is pretty enormous undertaking too. But it's really beautiful philosophy. And I think if you just study a little bit of it, most Western religion and philosophy begins to make sense. You see how profoundly foundational it is.
My dogs are eating.
But you gotta so in some of the past, there's a really good book, Christian mystic book from I think the 1300s. It's called The Cloud of Unknowing. And they talk about how you have to break through all ideology and conceptions and just rely on devotion, on love, um, to make that breakthrough, dropping. So in the meditation, we try to just drop into the just a sense of beingness, going beyond thoughts. The real Christian thing to do would be to battle all those thoughts as if they're demonic, and then you really work yourself up. The Tibetan tradition is to learn how to relax through them. In Dzogchen, you are still having thoughts, but you're identifying with the being level behind them, and you just, as they come up and you start getting lost, you relax, and there's like a sense of space. Even emotions, you do that. You don't do anything with them, you just relax into them. Um, but most people who do these practices eventually talk about an experience of no self. Um, in the Dzogchen tradition, they talk about it feels like the floor drops out below you. And in the Christian tradition, it's like walking off a cliff. So I thought it was fun that very different traditions, similar experience. They talk about as you relax, there's these kind of survival responses or just kind of like jolts of fear that happen. Maybe because you're not used to being awake with such a low heart rate or such shallow breathing. As you get used to relaxing deeper and deeper, and you start having theta states while you're awake, which would be the same as dreaming, like a light sleep, you'd be in a theta state. Um, so very little dropping way down, very little brain activity, it looks like, but you feel very active. Some of the common problems are depersonalization, you know, derealization, um, and I've done some of the Dzogchen practice and the yams. These meditative experiences can be very tricky to deal with. Like some of the common ones are seeing colors or getting stuck in a state where you just can't think. You just kind of just blanked out, or and they have techniques to deal with all those. And I see that same in hesychasm too. But it is considered a treacherous path, not for beginners, because you can become very deluded.
What's that?
Just delusional. People talk about seeing things and they take them serious, or they start thinking they're really great, like delusions of grandeur or stuff. Um, so people who undertake that type of mystical training usually have a guide who's very experienced and can point out uh, common traps. Because people doing it, they're doing a lot of meditation. They may be in retreat, living in a cave or something.
Oh,
And that's all they're doing, not really having much human interaction. Um,
yeah, yeah.
but it's very interesting to read about those traditions and the experiences. You start seeing some common patterns, common problems. Um, I think the quotes I found are pretty unanimous, you know. I don't know, guys.
I added birds to my bayou scene because I
All
I
right,
think I
let's
was
see
thinking
it.
of the dropping things away and I'm flying away kind of. I mean, it looks very Bob Ross, but I like my
All
bird.
right, beautiful. The oh, we lost Till. The Rudolph Otto guy is really interesting. Trying to find a common experience in all religions, right? And he came up with the numinous. He's a real interesting guy to read. Um,
Who's that?
if you're interested in this kind of cross-cultural examination.
Who's that?
Rudolf Otto, German theologian. In theology in the West, he's considered one of the most important theologians for his idea of the numinous.
The idea of what was that?
Of the numinous. I think these ideas, if we were talking to very religious people, there'd be a lot of conflicts with this. There's a lot of nuance. I just really glazed over it all. I really generalized it. But each tradition is very nuanced in these ideas and their practices and the way they comprehended. Because in Buddhism and Taoism, even though they have these mystical practices, they're pretty much a type of atheism. Um, they believe in spirituality. They believe in survival of consciousness without a God, without the necessity of a God, which is really interesting. Even psychic stuff, but they don't. Tibetan Buddhism see that they don't see the necessity to have a God. There's just kind of like a ground of being. In Zen, it's even more like if there is the opportunity for something to arise, it arises. And when those opportunities, circumstances fall apart, it goes away back into a nothing. So things may exist in a state of potential, and they arise and dissolve as circumstances come and go. I think the big difference between this and atheism is just if you consider consciousness as a fundamental ground, right?
So,
Yeah.
so when you say they deny a God, I'm assuming they defined it already.
There isn't like in most Western, you may rely on a prophet or a saint or a higher self, a guardian angel or a god to help you along the journey. But in Tibetan Buddhism, it's pretty much you, but they may have some teachers that you work with, or in Tibetan they do have gods that you work with, but they're not considered like a monotheism type of God.
Got you. So I get what you're saying. Because I mean, mo like even like most of like my greats, they didn't like my mom kind of adapted like the new approach of like the Christian type stuff, but like my great grandmother and how they would speak, it was more of like great spirit and would be like it would be circumstantial as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
the point was you don't fixate they wouldn't fixate their mind on something that wasn't within their limitations to fixate their mind on it. So it was
Mm-hmm.
pointless. So therefore they're never portraying or being or defining God per se.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of struck me when you said about I guess the Buddhism, I guess.
Yeah, they're considered like a spiritual atheism. Um,
So they do have a theology about God.
and I've seen that in the West too, and kind of some of the New Agey stuff, or even magical traditions. There's people who believe in survival of consciousness and psychic stuff, but they have no necessity for God. Um,
Hmm.
um,
That's interesting because where do they think it originates from?
Well, I would question where people define like I think my question would be when you say something or you throw like if you make just God a folder and then throw everything in it, And there's never a breakdown of it. And then you go through all this living and circumstances of and all these different directions of who's, what's what, and traditions. And then you're just in this melting pots and mixing of cultures. And we
Mm-hmm.
can see how they're universal ties and all of these things. It gets to a point where one person may say, I deny a God, and that's someone's perception of a God or the perception that they made. And one person would say, okay, there is no God, but would describe the place that it exists or doesn't exist in and out of the same place someone or something someone would call a God.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think a lot of times what would throw me off like growing up was when people would attribute a he or a him
Mm-hmm.
to a being to feel comforting that they can know.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I felt like even just growing up like that would be like the hiccup. And I was like some things made a lot of sense until you said he, and then
Mm-hmm.
now it just became something else.
In the Jewish tradition, the Keter is androgynous, but the Hokmah is considered the male aspect where it's undifferentiated.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the seed that goes in, and then the Bina would be considered the female aspect of God, which gives form, kind of like a pregnancy. It
Mm-hmm.
receives an aspect of that energy and then limits it through form. That's why it related to Saturn is the limiting or form giving, and then it enters existence into the space time. So I thought that was interesting. In some of the Gnostic traditions, it's reversed, where that wisdom aspect, the Hokmah, is Sophia, which is a woman.
I mean, and I think I'm much aware of that, but like the question like Ron asks,
Hmm.
we're talking about aspects of,
Yeah.
and when someone says God, they're going to that of, not the aspects of it.
Yeah. The Orthodox say you can never know the essence, but you can know the emanations, the energies that come out. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's
It's
pretty
like
tough.
a line that you just can't cross, right? It's the mystery. You say anything about it, you've already saying something about it is putting something into a formation.
Right.
So by just doing that, you've limited it.
Yeah. Or you brought it down into form, whether it's metaphysical or physical.
Yeah, so if it was the wisdom aspect, it would just be silence then, because all sounds happen in silence, right?
Yeah.
Um, or a stillness, because all movements happen in a stillness, right?
Or
That would be
simultaneous.
the wisdom aspect. So experientially, um, people who are too formed, right? They're really into an ideology, political party belief system of some kind. Um, they they would be then in this idea losing touch with wisdom
Gotcha.
because they're becoming concrete. Their minds becoming concrete. And so
Yeah.
these type of mystical paths would be a letting go of conception, of limitations of any kind, and a kind of dissolution, dissolving the self, dissolving the mind, dissolving thought
Yeah,
into
just
that
not
space.
knowing how to get back to being shapeless and formless.
Yeah, what should be wisdom, a radical type of openness.
Along the same lines of open-mindedness.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a balance between the two. If you're so open that nothing can take form, then you don't really get far, if you're so solidified that nothing can get through to you, then it's not really an evolution either. So that's the Keter, this kind of androgyny, a unifying of these two worlds, the realm of open potential and the realm of concreteness, right? A balancing. So you end up with someone who's very flexible, changeable, malleable.
Yeah.
The concept of androgyny is difficult for people, I think, to accept it in a lot of ways regarding a central God, because they can't envision it. They can't. They don't have a mental image of it, so they can't. They can't define it, and they don't like to have to settle on that as
Yeah.
a answer, because it doesn't satisfy their human need for exact definition. Also, I just want to mention that in Hinduism, which is still prevalent today, they're
Mm.
they're polytheistic. People can't envision a polytheistic religion. It's similar to mythology. We have all these different gods doing different things simultaneously, but yet we're in the modern world, and that's the belief. You
But
know, as
they
long as
even have a Brahmin though. Brahmin, all those gods are aspect of a oneness, right? Of a Brahmin. Same with Egyptian, the they had something beyond all that all those were aspects of. Then the Catholic or Orthodox, the angels uh,
Yeah.
uh, would be aspects of God's energies emanating into reality. So
But if you think about it, it's like political parties. It's like people don't like to think of like 13 or 15 different gods or goddesses, because
mhm,
it's like what you just said about, being too aligned with one thing or another. It means you
mhm,
have directions to look in. People don't want to look in all those different directions. So they say, I'm this, I'm
mhm,
that, and that's it. And it makes it simple, simplifies things. And then you can say, which, to some degree, you need some, as far as definition, just decide where you're going to move or do things. But, it's a lack of wisdom in terms of not seeing the full perspective of everything. So it's easy to say, this is it. You know, this is the be all end all.
I've seen in the spiritual traditions, it starts out as there's a strict organization of some kind, right? That tells you what not to do first, and then maybe gives you some virtues later. And people will identify with that. They'll dress like it, they'll have a flag or some symbol, right? That it's a group identity. And then maybe you enter into something more esoteric, and then you see these people are just scattered. They're way open-minded, they're into everything, they're researching everything. And then in the mystical type of spirituality, you're kind of tired of accumulating, and you
Hmm.
pick one thing that's really simple and you go way into it. Um, and it's about a transcendence, right? Of just going beyond and going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until you hit some type of foundational ground.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Like going to school when you're elementary, and you just have your general knowledge, and then seeing everything, in a broader sense of
Mhm.
most of different things, and then deciding to specialize after that.
Yeah, my teacher calls it going to the buffet. You go to the buffet and you try a bunch of stuff out and you find something that seems to suit your personality, you know, a whatever system, um, practices, symbols, even the personality of the teacher that you can deal with, and then you just go all into that.
That's
Mm.
that's true. That's very, very accurate. It's like the thing about people often ask, well, what you're on an island, and you're going to choose one thing to eat. What would it be, or what would the song would you cast to hear over? What would that be? And yet
Mhm.
it's ironic because you have to do that effectively. Your life is a lot closer to doing that, choosing that for yourself over the limited time you have, as opposed to seeing and incorporating everything. It's a lot closer to having just that one thing or those one or two things than it is to doing an infinite number of things. So there is a lot of truth to that when you're told you have to make a decision like that, because it's not very far off.
What I've been surprised with is once you reach that kind of mystical stage of practice, the practices are very simple, but they're incredibly nuanced as you do them.
Yeah.
And there seems to be kind of three stages. The first one is just getting a glimpse of the fundamental ground. And usually it's a little scary and kind of shocking to have an experience of like no self. But people glimpse it, and then you move into the second stage, whereas you try to experience that all the time through daily life. Not make it a permanent state, but just making it a habit. And then the final stage is it's become a habit and you're in it all the time. Um,
Hopefully with those nuances still there, uh, so
yeah.
that you.
Well, I feel like it just ends up becoming a mundane practice for yourself.
Yeah, because this thing that's supposed to be unchanging is supposed to be present in everything all the time. So you're recognizing something that's very mundane and ordinary that's there all the time, but you never noticed it. And so then you try to notice it all the time, undercutting the ego ideologies, concepts, and begin relating from that more and more. And in Dzogchen, you just take glimpses all the time for a few seconds. So you
Yeah.
start off with a seated practice, which could be longer meditations until you get the glimpse, and the teacher goes, "Yeah, you're not deluded. You actually did it. It sounds like." And then you look at that all the time throughout the day. So you might glimpse it 100 times a day for a second until it becomes a place that you relate from. In the Greek Orthodox, they do the Jesus prayer. You kind of gotta get warmed up into it until it becomes a habit that you're always thinking the prayer all the time. Even while you're dreaming, it's repeating until it's a persistent, never-ending prayer. Um, the In the Kabbalah tradition, you have to have the glimpse before you can even start. So you get your glimpse and then you start that entire enormous system I talked about. So their starting point is very high. Usually they only let people in their 40s start that in the tradition. And they had studied the Torah and any other books immensely and were vetted by their teachers, and very few people got to practice it.
So I have a question. And
Hmm.
a lot of the things that you look up, read, or research, is there anything stating as it being or anyone resembling it to a remembrance?
Um, they what they say is it's a it's always there, but it's never recognized. So there's a recognition. You go, oh, that's it.
What that and that's what I mean.
Yeah,
But it's not a
if it
and it's
was if it's something, it's not a new thing. If it was a new thing, it would just be a meditative experience.
I got you.
That's the yams, that's the delusion is you have all these experiences like you feel like you're having something profound happen, but it has a beginning and an end to it. If it has a beginning and an end, it's a meditative experience. It's not the real thing.
Got you. The next thing I was gonna get at is with that O, I don't hear I hear it being taught to do as a mechanism, but I hear it always being attached to consciousness, which consciousness will be a byproduct of the mechanism.
In Kabbalah, they say first there's the void, then out of the void comes being, then comes consciousness, and then comes life. I kind of like that. This is the Ein Sof R, and then it gets focused into Keter as
Hmm.
far as creation. Um, in the Actually, in the dream yoga tradition in Tibet, I really like that one. You get to where you're lucid dreaming all the time. And these lucid dreams are like, they feel like your waking life. And you get to the point where you control them so that you can collapse the dream. And so you're just a point of consciousness in a black abyss. And then they do their practices in that space. So there's no body or anything. You're just a point of mind in a black abyss in a lucid dream.
Hmm.
And that's how they practice it.
What is that? What is that practice?
It's called dream yoga.
You
It's a Tibetan practice. So if you were doing Dzogchen or Mahamudra is the other one in Tibet, you'd probably be doing dream yoga at night. So you'd be doing these meditations all day, and then you'd be meditating all night in a seated position, lucid dreaming. It's very, very hardcore training. I've tried the dream yoga. I tried to sleep in it's called a gom tree. It's like a chair, and I could not fall asleep in it. It's extremely hard. Extremely hard. But I was able to do the lucid dreaming laying down. The Indians do Shavasana, which is a meditation lying down, and what
Which Indians?
it's called Yoga Nidra. That's the practice.
It's
Yoga Nidra.
in India or Indians or Native Americans
India,
or
India,
Indians?
South Asia.
Got you. Got you.
That one was easier to lucid dream in than the seated position, which is just like I don't think someone living a Western life can do that practice. It's too much. You need to be just living in a cave to do that.
Yoga Nidra, and I liked it. It's definitely very like sensual. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, if you do that, if you wake up in the middle of the night around 3 or 4 a.m. and then you do your yoga nidra and just try to stay conscious, you might do what's called a wild awake-induced lucid dream. Wild. It is wild. Because you're conscious and then you go straight into a lucid dream through that. And it's very lifelike. It's very shocking, the sense of touch and smell and taste. But if you do yoga nidra, just, you know, remember that one night and
Yeah. I mean, because it's always those early morning dreams. Like you maybe you kind of woke up and then you fall back asleep and it's like, did that happen?
yeah, that's
Uh,
prime time. Prime
yeah.
time. Yeah.
I try to journal my dreams, but then sometimes I don't. But trying to think actually, maybe I have one from
Yeah, the
like
Western is to write it down.
yeah.
Tibetans will tell their friend, whoever's in retreat with them. The Native Americans had a stick they would tell it to or some object. A lot of traditions where they talk to objects um,
Yeah.
every morning.
I think you're supposed to talk to the object concerning the energy that you have less of.
I don't know. There's a lot of different traditions. There's a lot of
I think it's probably for the same reason of like writing it down so that you remember it, so that it gives you.
yeah. You gotta that's the hardest thing. You can be lucid dreaming all the time and just not have any recall. So having dream recall is really good. And another thing you can do is recall your day before you go to sleep. So practicing just remembering through your day, and then you do that. We go to sleep. Um, People do reality checks. Am I in a dream? My finger's not going through my hand. And then one day you'll do that while you're in a dream and it goes through and you're like, oh shit, I'm here. But my favorite is the wild technique, just meditating straight into it. Um, it's a pretty overwhelming experience.
Huh.
But let's see, what time is it, guys? Oh, well, want to do the dedication and we'll wrap it up. We could do lucid dreaming next month if you want.
Cool.
Me and Kenny have gone back and forth on that one for a while. All right. So just take your seat and just remembering that these practices are to benefit other people as well. So may this love flow outwards, uniting the hearts of all beings, illuminating endless dawns. So thank you, everybody.